Making 3D models into props can seem an arduous task, but I'm here to show it's not so bad. This video will not show you how to make meshes or how to use Blender, but rather how to go about moving your meshes into the source engine, as well as decompiling other models. You can find timestamps in the description to fast forward to parts you have limited knowledge on. You may use whatever 3D software you like, but the process will vary program to program, and I will only be showing how to export from Blender. For this, we'll need to install Blender Source Tools, Crowbar, and GCScape. I'll provide links to these downloads in the description. In Blender, open your project with the mesh you'd like to make a prop from. Go to Scene Properties and make sure that the unit system is set to None. This ensures that the Blender units are equal to Source's hammer units, one hammer unit measuring 1/16 of a foot, which you can view in the item panel. For reference, in Half-Life 2, the player is 73 units tall. I would, however, recommend decompiling a human model from the game and using it for scale. To do this, open a VPK from the game with GCScape. The one you are looking for will likely have MISC in its name. Navigate to your model folder, and in the right box, select everything of the same name. Move it to a folder wherever you prefer. Copy the address. Next, open Crowbar and go to the Decompile tab. Under Input and Output, paste the address you copied. I recommend checking the folder for each model button. Crowbar will then make a new folder and store your SMD or DMX files, and sometimes other files which we don't need to worry about right now. Next in Blender, go into File, Import, Source Engine. Locate the SMD or DMX file Crowbar created. This is the main mesh file. If your model has a skeleton, be sure to change Bone Append mode to New Armature, otherwise your skeletons will merge together. Now you can scale using your reference. Once you're done scaling your mesh, be sure to select everything and hit Ctrl-A, then select all transforms. This will prevent translation issues when you export by setting the current values to be default. You can delete your reference now if you like. Next is finally exporting your mesh. Under Scene, go to Source Engine Export and change your export path. I recommend making a new folder to stay organized. Depending on what you prefer and what you're doing, you can change your export format to SMD. For most cases though, I would use SMD as DMXs can be confusing to work with. DMXs, however, are good for complex ragdolls with facial expressions, as you get a lot more flexibility and more advanced options such as wrinkle maps. Since we were just doing a rigid prop, we'll go with SMD. Make sure there are no collections other than your scene collection. Select your mesh and hit Export, then select it. Now we've got a new SMD generated. The next part covers QC files, which are essentially text documents that tell the compiler what to do and what to include in your model. I will have provided a basic QC file in the description of the video. I also recommend later decompiling other models and looking through their QC files. There's also a lot of very useful information on the Valve Developer Wiki. But for now, just follow along so you get the feel of things. Start a new file in your text editor. Save it as whatever you like with the format QC in the folder you exported your SMD to. Next, we want to define your model name. This is a folder and name the model will show up in Hammer and in-game. Every model will have a body. This references the SMD we just exported from Blender. Name it whatever. We can next define a surface property for the mesh. This tells the game your model's friction and other properties, and you can see a wiki link with available materials in the description. I will choose metal for this prop. We should then define a material directory. This is where the game will look for a VMT or Valve material file with the same name as those found in the mesh. If you are making a static prop that will not move, add the static prop command. This will allow it to be used as a prop_static in Hammer, which contributes to compiled lighting. Do not do this if you plan to export a mesh with animations, as they will not be usable. Next, we need a sequence. Since this mesh doesn't have any animations, we'll just define this as the actual mesh itself and call it idle. Finally, we will need a collision model. You can either make your own or reuse your mesh. However, the latter option tends to be very sloppy. You can skip this next section if you do not wish to make a mesh, or if your model will not be interacted with in-game. If you do choose to make your own collision mesh, you'll need to duplicate your base mesh in Blender. Keep in mind that if your model contains moving joints, that this section will be different. I recommend reading up on it on the Valve Developer Wiki. To get a finer collision model, you'll need to separate each piece in edit mode. Select a loop and hit Ctrl-E, then split edges. Select one vertex, hit Ctrl-L to select linked vertices, and then hit F3. Search for convex hole. This will shrink wrap the selected part and fill any holes, which is essential to making your collision mesh work. Do this for each part. Remove the materials from the model and make sure that you disable auto smoothing and clear split normal data if it's available. Select everything and hit Ctrl E and clear seams as you have it. Do the same for sharps. Next, go to the F3 menu and do Shade Smooth. This is also essential for your collision mesh to work. Append fibs to the end of the new mesh name and export it like before. Then reference this in your QC file. We're now ready to compile our model in Crowbar. Make sure you select the game you're compiling for, and the output is set to Games Model folder. Select Compile. You will want to check for any errors. If you see any, you may have missed a step or typed improper syntax in your QC file. If you did not get any errors, you can go ahead and open Half-Life Model Viewer inside your Games bin folder. You can now navigate to your new model and check things out. Obviously, there are no textures yet, but I will cover this in a separate tutorial. If you have any problems that you cannot find yourself or on Google, leave a comment below and I'll try my best to help. If there are any other specific tutorials you would like to see related to models, leave them below as well. Now, have fun.